Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I've been wanting to do a large family homestead pantry tour for over a year now. 2020 changed the way most Americans look at the grocery store, how much food we keep on hand, and what foods are most important to have in our home. Many people who had never gardened before became gardeners. Compost and seeds were nearly impossible to find by midsummer, and don't even get me started on toilet paper. As the weeks went on, I started making lists, what we already had and how much, meal ideas using what we had in the pantry, and thinking outside the box if I could no longer get convenience items at the grocery store like hamburger buns, tortillas, pie crust, or pasta. I wanted to make sure I had all the necessary ingredients to make those things from scratch for as long as we needed. Over the last 2 years, we've built up a 3 to 6 month food supply for our family of 10. Join me in my pantry and I'll explain what we keep on hand and why. My husband and I designed our pantry very intentionally. We have 10-foot ceilings and we wanted to make sure we used all the space efficiently. On this top shelf, we keep things that we don't need access to super often, like this big container of plastic cups for when we have large gatherings, extra canning jars, and a big package of foil pans. On the next shelf, we keep a couple months worth of oats. We use oats to make oatmeal for breakfast, granola, homemade granola bars, or even to grind it up and make oat flour. It's cheap and pretty readily available. We've also got a box of plastic forks, some paper plates, and some miscellaneous items in this basket, like pudding mix and quinoa, things we don't use very often. Down here we have Jiffy corn muffin mix. You may have mixed feelings about this, but it's delicious and it's super cheap. It's like 50 cents a box. We usually will make 2 boxes for my family, and 2 boxes requires 2 eggs and 2/3 a cup of milk. A lot of times we'll make cornbread when we have simple meals like pinto beans and Spanish rice or red beans and rice. It makes the kids pretty happy. We have chow chow, which we like to put on hot dogs and brats, and then original barbecue sauce. We keep several bottles of barbecue sauce on hand. Guys, you can have shredded barbecue chicken sandwiches in about 30 minutes with half a bottle of barbecue sauce, a couple of frozen chicken breasts, and your Instant Pot. It's really convenient, and it's a favorite of mine on the weekends when we've been working outside all day and I just need a quick supper that'll fill everyone's bellies. We always keep lots of peanut butter. All of my kids, including my husband, really like peanut butter. You can find at least half my kids with a peanut butter spoon, as they call it, after school in the afternoons just for a snack. We also add it to oatmeal. They have peanut butter and honey sandwiches. We put it in protein shakes, cookies, or just peanut butter and crackers. It's a good, inexpensive fat and protein. We also keep lots of mayonnaise for things like homemade ranch dressing or homemade yum yum sauce when we have hibachi. Soy sauce we keep quite a bit of as well. Vegetable fried rice is a really economical dish. My kids love it for lunches, especially in the summer when we don't always want to have sandwiches. And then we have salsa. Our very favorite is Mateo's up there in the back, but that one is pricey. If you have a copycat Mateo's recipe, I would love for you to leave it in the comments. Otherwise, we typically buy the cheap stuff. We use them in a lot of recipes or sometimes just chips and salsa. Then we have Worcestershire sauce to add to meatloaf or homemade burger patties, pimentos for making homemade pimento cheese, and lots of ketchup. My kids like ketchup. There's Cardini's dressing. Guys, if you've never had Cardini's and you like Caesar salad, it's a game changer. It's my very favorite Caesar dressing. I like it more than restaurant Caesar salad. Down here on this shelf was one of those shelves that we measured super intentionally. We keep our most used appliances that I don't necessarily want to keep on the kitchen counter because I just like to have my kitchen counter more cleared off as much as possible. But I've got the Vitamix, a 10-quart Instant Pot, and an 8-quart Instant Pot, and I use these pretty much every day. I am really not sure how I ever survived without these Instant Pots. Over here we have a variety of rices, pastas, and beans. There's some dried beans in the back. This is our favorite wild rice blend. I use it for chicken and wild rice soup, chicken and wild rice casserole. Sometimes I even swap the chicken for white beans, and my family doesn't even notice. It's so good. We have brown basmati rice, regular basmati, jasmine. Guys, if you've never tried this red rice seasoning mix, I don't know what's in it, but it makes regular white rice taste just like the Spanish rice you get in a Mexican restaurant. Back there's lentils for our coconut lentil curry, which is a favorite. And then these cute jars of minestrone mix. I have to thank my friend Allie for bringing me a few jars when we first moved into our house. You can use one of these pint jars to feed our whole family of 10. You just add 8 to 10 cups of water, a can of crushed tomatoes, and you're ready to serve. You can also add extra things like diced carrots, diced potatoes, or even some ground beef, but we like it just the way it is in the jar. So I got the recipe from Allie and I made up some more for the pantry. Down here we've got more basmati rice. I'm actually expecting some 5-gallon buckets to store those in my Azure order next week. There are bulb onions. We go through about an onion a day in our house. There are croutons, chips, and then my favorite mixing bowl, which currently has some potatoes in it. Up here we have more canning jars and 3 or 4 oil lamps with a few extra bottles of fuel. Guys, when we lived in a trailer down the street before we built our house, we lost power all the time, whether it was a thunderstorm or the remnants of a hurricane that would blow through. Sometimes we had no power for 2 or 3 days. I think one time, maybe Hurricane Matthew, it was even more than that. So it was much safer to have a few oil lamps around than it was a bunch of candles with 8 children in the house. So we always have extra wicks and extra oil for those lamps now. Although I'm happy to say we haven't lost power for more than an hour or so since we moved into our new house. Down here we have a few cases of ramen noodles. I'm happy to say we do not eat ramen noodles very often, but we do have a really good curry chicken noodle soup recipe that calls for several packages of the noodles, and we just discard the seasoning packet. And then of course, sometimes when my kids are sick or have a sore throat, they just want some ramen noodles. Over here, we've got our favorite tea bags. We live in the South, so on the weekends, we make a pitcher or 2 of sweet tea. And these are the type where you just need 1 big bag per gallon pitcher. Next, we've got applesauce. This is just store brand unsweetened applesauce. My little kids like it in their lunches for school. Sometimes we actually give our youngest their vitamins mixed in with some applesauce, and it makes it go down a little easier. Our applesauce is running low, but next month we'll be going apple picking, so we'll make a big batch of homemade applesauce and we'll can that up for the rest of the year. Down here we've got canned pumpkin, which I love to use this time of year for pumpkin muffins, pumpkin bread, and then we've got these seasoned collard greens. I put these in a colander and just rinse the seasoning off, and I use it in our favorite West African peanut soup recipe. And then we've got mild diced tomatoes with green chilies, which is just generic Rotel. I use that in several of our recipes. Refried beans, green and red enchilada sauces. Again, we make Mexican once or twice a week, and so I always try to keep several different types of beans and different Mexican sauces on hand. We have cream of mushroom and cream of chicken, which we don't use very often, but it's convenient to keep around the holidays for things like green bean casserole. We've got a lot of coconut milk. We use 2 or 3 cans at a time to make some of our favorite Indian and Thai dishes, so I try to keep a lot of that in the pantry. Down here we've got more home canned beans, canned corn, which has been hard to find the last few months. That stock is running pretty low. 2 jars of honeysuckle jelly left from last year, artichoke hearts, which no one in our house eats but my husband and I, so I don't keep much of it in the pantry, and then black olives, which is something all of my kids like. They will eat them plain as a snack or in their lunches. They also like them cut up on homemade pizza. I discovered that it's really easy to make homemade green enchilada sauce if you have canned green diced chilies. So I got several cans of that recently at the grocery store, and I'm going to give it a go soon. Crushed tomatoes. We use tomato products for so many things in our house. Pizza sauce, marinara sauce. You can make ketchup and barbecue sauce. So I like to just get crushed tomatoes. I will use crushed tomatoes in a recipe that calls for diced tomatoes, whole tomatoes. You can turn it into tomato soup. It's just easy, and you only have to buy one product rather than a different tomato product for all of your needs. Over here we've got peach preserves, my home canned tomatoes. Again, I just roast and blend them up. I roast them, blend them up with the seeds and the skin still on them. I add a little bit of lemon juice, and then I can it up just like that. It's nice and easy and makes it super versatile. And then I dehydrated some bell peppers and some celery, which are easy to throw into soups and stews in the fall and winter. Down here we have a basket of pepperoni. Do you remember when pepperoni was hard to find last year? Those were the most random items that started going missing during COVID. We keep a lot of pepperoni because we make homemade pizzas every Friday night. Back here we have a large jar of pickles, some breadcrumbs, and chocolate chips. It's nice to have a treat in the pantry to make chocolate chip cookie bars, or we'll add them to brownies. And then over here we have the bulk of our gardening produce from this year. We've got jalapeno cowboy candy, pickled banana peppers, peach preserves, fig preserves, quite a bit of homemade chicken stock, and our last 2 quart jars of apple pie filling. Again, next month is apple season. I'm really excited to get that back in our house. There's nothing like fresh picked apples. These big cans of corn I found at Sam's. Again, I've had trouble finding the smaller cans of corn lately, so I just thought I would get a few of these. They're only like $3 or $4. It's better than not having any at all. Down here we've got some more rice, juice boxes for the children's lunches, and these are whole wheat Aldi brand Ritz crackers. We'll use those for snacks. We can serve tuna salad, egg salad. Sometimes I'll put them in their lunch boxes if I haven't made bread. I'll just put meat and cheese and some crackers, like a homemade Lunchable. Here are some more dried beans. Eventually I would like to can up some more of these, but for now I'm just waiting on my Azure Standard order so I can put these in a 5-gallon bucket so that they're not just sitting on a shelf. This 25-pound bag of bread flour I get at Sam's Club. It is less than $8, and we go through 1 or 2 of these a month, depending on how much bread we go through. The recipe that I use for bread is a whole wheat recipe, and it calls for about 2/3 whole wheat flour and then 1/3 bread flour. So I try to keep 75 to 100 pounds of bread flour in the pantry at all times. It's just nice to know that I'm not a couple weeks away from running out. On the next top shelf on the right side, I've got more canning jars, what my mom calls our lobster pot, which is just the pot I use for my water bath canning, and some ribbon that does not belong in the pantry. On the next shelf, I have some bouillon cubes, beef bouillon, chicken bouillon, and beef broth base. We like to do most of our bone broth from scratch, but it's nice to have bouillon cubes on hand for large quantity meals and when I'm out of homemade chicken stock or beef broth. I also have some rice checks. I intended on making homemade Chex Mix for my kids' lunches and snacks, and as soon as I got home, the pretzels were eaten, so I haven't made that yet. We've got non-fat dry milk. Dry milk is great to have in the pantry for when you need milk for a recipe. It's not like we would drink this milk, but it's really great for when we don't typically keep milk in the refrigerator at our house. We just don't really drink it. And so we can use the dry milk for recipes, and we just add however much water we need. And it lasts for a really long time, like several years. We also keep just extra baking stuff on this shelf, like popcorn, salt, olive oil. There's some extra powdered sugar. And then these grocery bags contain 10-pound bags of sugar. We probably have 7 or 8 bags back there, and the Walmart bags seem to help keep us from making a mess on the shelves. Down here we have brownie mix. I don't know if you've ever tried Paula Deen's Lady Brownies, but they only call for like 5 ingredients, and they are some of our favorites. But I like to keep some of the mixes in the pantry so that when my husband and I go out for date night or on Friday night pizza nights, the kids can whip up some brownies on their own with a simple box mix. We have quite a few packages of grits. Guys, we live in the South. Grits are a big thing. If you've never made cheese grits with heavy cream and chicken broth, you are missing out. They are the best. We serve it with scrambled eggs, or we add a little sausage to it. So good. I've got some unsweetened coconut flakes, evaporated milk, and some Trim Healthy Mama products like pressed peanut flour, oat fiber. I think behind there we've got collagen and protein powder. And then there's just some miscellaneous stuff on this shelf. Our food saver, which needs a new heat seal right now. Our air fryer, which does not get a lot of use, but I just can't get myself to get rid of it just yet. Some microwave popcorn along with an air popper, and my grain mill. I do grind my own whole wheat into flour and use that to make our bread and bread products like tortillas. Down here, I've got my old trusty Bosch mixer. That thing is a beast, and I can use it to make a huge batch of homemade bread. In this basket, we have some miscellaneous items, some winter squash like butternut squash, spaghetti squash, acorn squash, and some sugar pie pumpkins. Those were all from the garden this year, and they should last a couple more months in the pantry. And some little things like granola bars and raisins to add to the kids' lunches. And then just some miscellaneous things like lunch boxes, my cast iron Dutch oven, and there is our apple core and peeler, which we will be using next month. Down here on the floor, we measured this bottom shelf perfectly to fit these 6-gallon buckets and also these charcoal containers that I get from Amazon for less than $13. We have lined the walls on the bottom with these charcoal containers, and they hold extra flour, rice. That one right there in the middle has beans and legumes in it, like split peas. I don't know if you can see, but I put Post-it notes. I taped them to the top of each bin so I don't have to pull every bin out and open it to see what's in it. And we just keep a rotation kind of going counterclockwise. When we've used up the bread flour all the way over on the left, I'll kind of shift one down and put the empty one back in the back, and then I'll refill it when I get another bag. It's just been really nice to have these extra dry goods on hand. I only have to restock them once every couple of months. So it's really nice having them on the floor, out of the way, but safe from insects and potential critters. I hope this pantry tour was helpful. Just remember, we did not build up our food storage overnight. It's something that we've done slowly over the last couple of years, and I intend to make a video in the near future explaining how you can create a simple menu for your family and then slowly start to build up your food storage as well. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you'd like to be notified of when I publish videos in the future.